We spend most of our time in groups, whether we call these groups family, government, or corporations. Yet, we spend so little time finding out how these groups work and how they don't work. I'd like to illustrate how roles work with a story. 5 doctors went duck hunting one day. Included in the group were a general practitioner, a pediatrician, a psychiatrist, a surgeon, and a pathologist. After a time, a bird came winging overhead. The first to react was the GP, who raised his shotgun and then hesitated. "I'm not sure if it's a duck," he said. "I think I'll have to get a second opinion." And of course, by that time, the bird was long gone. Another bird appeared in the sky thereafter. This time, the pediatrician drew a bead on it. He too, however, was unsure if it really was a duck in his sights, and besides, it might have rabies. "I'll have to do some more investigation," he muttered, as a creature made good its escape. Next to spy a bird was a sharp-eyed psychiatrist. Shotgun-shouldered, he was more certain of his intended prey's identity. "Now I know a duck, but does it know it's a duck?" The fortunate bird again disappeared, while this fellow wrestled with this dilemma. Finally, a fourth fowl sped past. This time the surgeon pointed his gun skywards. Boom! The surgeon lowered a smoking gun and then turned nonchalantly to the pathologist beside him and said, "Go see if that's a duck, will you?" So what do we mean by a role exactly? In social psychology, one of the key elements of understanding how a group functions is to examine the roles played by each of its members. You might say, a role is a set of behaviors associated with an individual. It's a pattern of behavior that is relatively consistent over time, and it changes depending on the situation. Formal roles have labels associated with them. For example, formal family roles include father, mother, aunt, uncle, son, daughter, and so on. Formal work roles include work, supervisor, manager, executive, investor, and of course the boss. If you stop to think about it, many university degrees are really preparation for formal work roles. It takes a lot of time and study to be a doctor or a lawyer, less time to be an electrician or a plumber. Which reminds me of another story. One day a doctor came home to find his kitchen flooded. He immediately called a new plumber in town. The latter arrived, found and fixed the trouble in 10 minutes, and then presented a bill on the spot for $150. "Why, that's outrageous!" exclaimed the doctor. "It works out almost to be $1,000 an hour. I'm a cardiac surgeon, and even I don't make that kind of money." "Yes, I know," replied the plumber. "Neither did I when I was a heart surgeon." So besides knowing how well we can play our formal roles, it's also important to play informal ones, especially ones that we can use when it comes to communicating inside a meeting environment. There are 3 categories of these communication roles: task, relationship, and self-centered ones. It looks pretty easy so far, and you might wonder why you might have to take a class to understand these better. It's because you have to learn and use 28 different roles, some easy, some very complex. There are 10 task roles, both subtle and obvious ways to keep the group from derailing. There are 6 relationship roles, actions that maintain trust and rapport, and prevent conflict from becoming destructive. Finally, there are 13 self-oriented roles, roles that when overplayed cause a lot of problems in meetings. You will need to understand each of these if you are going to be a skilled leader and a facilitator. Besides that, It's important to adapt a new mindset. Which brings us to a quote by the American actress Kristen Dunst. She said, "I want to play an action hero. I'm ready for roles that totally aren't me. To be able to lead a group, to be able to facilitate group process, you'll have to play roles you've never played before, ones you may not be very comfortable with. Remember, you can be a star on the stage of work, or a bit player. Bit players, unfortunately, never get noticed, but stars play many roles, and because they know how to do this, they develop high-performance teams, run better meetings, and ultimately make better decisions." So if this is for you and you'd like to learn more, do not hesitate to check out our learning site in the short course area or send an email.